til
en original
podcast fra Arrow. Velkommen til Innovators Club. Rigtig god fornøjelse med dagens episode.
Velkommen til det her afsnit. Du skal nu høre et interview med John Fry fra HPE, og han er Chief Technologist for Sustainable Transformation hos HPE. Han fokuserer på bæredygtighedsinitiativer og spiller en vigtig rolle i at forme HPE's strategi, når det kommer til bæredygtighed. Han sikrer, at virksomheden forbliver i front inden for grøn teknologi og har fokus på reduktion af HPE's CO2-aftryk. Det her afsnit er en del af en serie, der fokuserer på forskning og initiativer, der arbejder på at skabe en mere miljøvenlig infrastruktur og hvordan vi kan reducere vores påvirkning af miljøet. Vi vil med den her podcast gerne finde ud af, hvordan vi kan skabe en mere bæredygtig og grønnere fremtid for vores planet. Mit navn er Liselotte Forsskov, og jeg er glad for, at du har valgt at lytte med i dag. Det er mig, der har produceret det her afsnit, og podcasten er redigeret i samarbejde med Annette Sønderby. Jeg var så heldig at blive inviteret op til HPE i Allerød i forbindelse med, at John Fry havde et par dage i Danmark. Vi ses! Hej Annette, det er Liselotte.
Hej Liselotte.
Nu er jeg på vej til HPE.
Det bliver spændende. Er du klar?
Jeg håber, jeg er klar. Jeg har i hvert fald været inde og læse om det og har forberedt 10 spørgsmål, hvilket kan være både meget og lidt. Og nu har jeg lige parkeret her foran Hewlett Packard på Engholm Parkvej i Allerød. Og nu har jeg faktisk lidt sommerfugle i maven, for nu skal jeg mødes med John Fry. Hi. Kom du ind? No, hi. Hi. Nice to meet you. My name is Liselotte. Nice to meet you as well.
Hi, I'm John Fry, and I'm HPE's Chief Technologist for Sustainable Transformation. And what that really means is I lead a team that's global that helps customers use their technology more efficiently.
Okay. So are you customer-faced?
I am, yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Although I sit in HPE's sustainability organization, I and my team are customer-facing.
Okay. And can you just give an overview of how HPE thinks about sustainability?
Yeah, so let's go back to the beginning. HPE started our sustainability programs in 1957 when the two founders of Hewlett Packard were growing their company outside of the United States. And so they decided that if they were going to have their company outside the United States, they needed to be a good global citizen. And so the two co-CEOs decided they would measure the company on global citizenship as one of the CEO measures, and it's been that way ever since.
So when you talk about sustainability, what kind of sustainability are we talking about? Because it's such a broad subject.
Yeah, absolutely. We think about sustainability from a social perspective, from an environmental perspective, and from a governance perspective. So when we talk about sustainability, it could be the carbon implications or the other environmental implications of our technology use. It could be the social conditions, how we treat our employees, how our contract manufacturing partners treat their employees, how do we prevent human trafficking in our entire supply chain, all the way down to how do you use technology for societal good? How do we close the digital divide or solve societal challenges through the use of technology? So for us, it's both how do we have sustainable use of technology and how do you use technology for sustainability?
Okay. And do you have like a main focus area in your team, or do you do everything?
We have all of those conversations with customers, but the primary focus that my team brings to customers is how to use their sustainability, or I'm sorry, their technology most sustainably.
Yeah.
So HPE's point of view on sustainable IT was developed by our team. And part of the reason is you can't buy a book on that topic today, nor can you go get a university degree in the topic. So customers over the last 22 years that we've had this practice increasingly ask us, is there a written document? Is there something we can take away? Is there a how-to guide? So the team wrote those guides and white papers that we hand to customers today.
Yeah, and I think we're still doing research about this, right? Like, there's no bottom line on this. It's so complex.
There is, and every year when we think we've captured it all, there's a new topic. So a year ago, we introduced a new topic at the event I'm speaking at in Stockholm, and this year we're going to announce even another topic to that. So yes, it is ever moving.
Yeah, all the time. And I talked to 3 professors here in Denmark, and they're researching like efficiency, like the environmental impact the technology has. So when I began this theme, I was hoping to get an answer, but it's getting more and more clear to me that we don't have the answer right now. So, but it's still important that we're on this journey and in this transformation, I guess. So if we speak about environmental impact, how does HPE, what do they do? Like, what can they do in this area?
Yeah, so there's a lot of answers to that question. Let's start with our technology. 65% of HPE's total carbon footprint on the earth is when our customers use our products. And of those products, 85 to 90% usually of their impact is when the customer uses them. So if the use, the part that's out of our direct control, is really the biggest part of the impact, our practice works with customers to help them think about what are the efficiency opportunities, because they vary for each customer, and then give them the resources to help them optimize their technology stack by doing that. Or in many cases, HPE will be able to take on the management of the customer's technology stack to optimize it and run it in an optimized fashion for the customer. About 31%, it changes a little bit every year, is our supply chain. So how do we work with our suppliers to lower the impact through design of the products in the first place, through the manufacturing of the products, through the logistical chain? So it's a smaller impact that we have, but it's still a big piece, and it's a piece we don't directly control. So we work with those suppliers to set their own science-based carbon targets as well, so that they are trying to lower the carbon impact of their piece of that, and we're looking across that logistics chain. And then the final 3% are the things that HPE has direct control of, our own operations. So obviously we're optimizing there and using technology to continue to optimize things like automated building systems that manage heating and cooling and lighting and those sorts of things as well. And then from an overarching perspective over all of that, HPE has a science-based net zero target, one of the first 2 in the technology industry, where we're looking at all of our carbon emissions, the ones that are in our direct control, the ones in our supply chain, and the ones in our customer use phase. And this being a science-based target means an external group of scientists has vetted that and says our goal is in line with climate science, and that it has a significant reduction. In our case, by 2040, we're going to reduce all of those emissions by 90%. Significant reductions, that's what's required to stay in line with climate science, and then balance out the remaining 10% of those emissions. So all of that to say is there's a lot of things we can do that are in our direct control, but much beyond that, there's lots of opportunity in our supply chain and even more in helping our customers get better.
90%. John Fry forklarer altså, at der er mange aspekter ved HPE's bæredygtighedsarbejde. Og han fortæller, at omkring 85-90% af klimapåvirkningen, den sker faktisk, når produkterne bliver benyttet ude hos kunderne. Og derfor fokuserer HPE på at samarbejde med kunderne for at hjælpe dem med at identificere effektivitetsmuligheder, og de varierer selvfølgelig fra miljø til miljø. HPE stiller også ressourcer til rådighed, så de kan optimere deres brug af teknologier ude hos kunderne. Når det kommer til HPE's supply chain, udgør den omkring 31% af deres klimapåvirkning. HPE arbejder tæt sammen med deres leverandører for at mindske påvirkningen ved at fokusere på produkternes design, produktion og logistik. HPE hjælper også leverandørerne med at fastsætte deres egne klimamål, baseret på videnskabelige retningslinjer for at mindske deres klimapåvirkning. De sidste 3% af HPE's klimapåvirkning kommer fra deres egen drift, som de har direkte kontrol over. Og her optimerer HPE deres drift og bruger teknologi til at optimere blandt andet opvarmning, kølning og belysning i deres bygninger. HPE sigter mod at reducere alt deres CO2-aftryk med 90% inden 2040 og arbejder på at balancere de resterende 10% af udledningen.
Customers, that biggest piece, it's a never-ending conversation with customers to get to 90% reduction in our Scope 3 emissions as well. A lot of work.
But you measure on HPE, right? So that's the 90%, or do you also measure on customer emissions?
You have to measure all of it,
yeah,
because
of course,
97% of HPE's total is not HPE. It's supply chain and customers. So for us to meet our carbon targets, our customers have to have significant reductions as well. So it's working with customers to think about what is it you need technology for? How do you then design the most efficient technology stack, if you will, the hardware and software that is that technology solution? And then how do you power that with renewable energy? So there's a lot of moving parts that help you get there. And as you mentioned earlier, technology is evolving over time. So I don't know that we know all the solutions we'll need for 2040 yet, even today, sitting here having this conversation.
Vedvarende energi spiller en vigtig rolle i målet om at reducere CO2-udledningen og for at skabe en mere bæredygtig fremtid. Når vi taler om vedvarende energi, så taler vi om kilder som sol, vind, vandkraft, biomasse, geotermisk varme. Og de er ikke kun mere miljøvenlige, men de er også uudtømmelige, og det gør dem til en langsigtet løsning for vores energibehov. John Fry kom også ind på vigtigheden af at benytte vedvarende energi i til drift og i at reducere spildvarme. For at sikre adgang til vedvarende energi arbejder HPE sammen med flere organisationer, og det er for eksempel Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance og myndigheder. Og det gør de for at skabe incitamenter for øget anvendelse og vedvarende energikilder i elforsyningsnettet. Det her punkt er afgørende, for det er sjældent muligt at opnå 100% vedvarende energi. Herudover har HPE fokus på genanvendelse af spildvarme fra deres server, og ved at samarbejde med partnere som Danfoss.
Absolutely. In fact, we have a great partner here in Denmark called Danfoss that is in the business of heat reuse. So if we look at
så udnytter de muligheden for at omdanne deres spildvarme til en ressource, og varmen kan genbruges til opvarmning af bygninger eller benyttes i vertikale landbrug og andre use cases. Ved at tænke på både behovet for vedvarende energi og genanvendelse af varme, så kan HPE træffe beslutninger om placering og teknologiløsninger, der yderligere optimerer deres bæredygtighedsindsats. John Fry og jeg taler om vigtigheden af at arbejde sammen som et globalt fællesskab med et fælles mål og øge anvendelsen af vedvarende energi og reducere vores afhængighed af ikke bæredygtige energikilder. Ved at bruge vedvarende energi og genanvende spildvarme, kan virksomheder som HPE bidrage og gøre en stor indsats for en mere bæredygtig og miljøvenlig fremtid for os alle.
So it's a journey we've been on for a number of years, over a decade, more so in the high-performance computing world, the supercomputer world, partially because those systems have been liquid-cooled for a much longer period of time. Now, what you're going to see, though, that's going to drive and accelerate that is the EU has legislation proposed where it's going to look at high energy consumers, and it doesn't take very much energy consumption to fit into that definition. And they're going to start asking those companies to disclose their carbon emissions, their electrical use, and one of the factors that was in the proposed regulation, it's not been released yet, so we're not sure if it made it all the way through, but is heat reuse. So they're going to start asking large energy consumers, you're probably generating waste heat. Now, what are you doing with that waste heat? So we've seen a renewed interest from customers about thinking about their technology solutions all the way to and including waste heat, enough so a data center executive that I was in a meeting with a couple months ago came to me and said, today we're in the business of building data centers to host IT. He said, tomorrow we're going to be in the heat generation game. That's going to be our business. And we're just going to happen to use IT as the source of the heat that we're generating. They see enough of a revenue model with the use of that heat.
Som John Fry fortæller i interviewet, er det vigtigt at gøre bæredygtighed til en integreret del af forretningen, og en af de afgørende faktorer, der vil fremskynde den her udvikling, er den kommende EU-lovgivning. En af de aspekter, der nævnes i den foreslåede regulering, hvis den bliver vedtaget, det er genanvendelse af varme. Store energiforbrugere vil blive bedt om at rapportere, hvad de gør med deres spildvarme, og det er en vigtig faktor for at reducere miljøpåvirkningen. Den her kommende regulering vil være et incitament for virksomheder til at være mere opmærksomme på deres energiforbrug og deres indvirkning på miljøet. Det vil skubbe dem til at tænke over, hvordan de kan udnytte og genbruge den varme, der genereres som en del af deres aktiviteter. Som John Fry nævner, vil det kræve, at man fremover fokuserer på at generere varme, i stedet for bare at hoste datacentre. IT-chefen, som John Fry havde talt med, ser en mulighed for at omdanne varme til en indtægtskilde. Og det her eksempel viser, hvordan virksomheder kan udnytte bæredygtighedsprincipper til at skabe nye forretningsmuligheder og samtidig bidrage til en mere bæredygtig fremtid. Ved at integrere bæredygtighed i forretningen kan virksomheder ikke kun reducere deres miljøpåvirkning, men de kan også opnå økonomiske fordele og drive innovation. Når vi taler om klimaet, er det vigtigt at se på forbindelsen mellem bæredygtighed og økonomi. John Fry fortæller, at mange fejlagtigt tror, at det at være mere klimavenligt koster penge. Men faktisk er erfaringen hos HPE, at det at være mere klimavenlig faktisk sparer penge.
Part of what we tell customers is there's this myth that being more sustainable costs money. It's actually been our experience that being more sustainable saves money. And in fact, one of the conversations we have with technology executives is we ask them, do you have any unfunded technology mandates they would really help your company, but you don't have the budget for? Of course, the answer 100% of the time is, of course we do. And that my next question to them is, how about we're going to show you how to get funding for that mandate? Would that be okay? Yes, tell me more. And so what we show them is by taking the steps that we suggest in terms of making their technology operations more efficient, not only does it require less people and less resources and less electricity and therefore generate less carbon, but it also saves them money. So we're not saying do something that's counter to business. What we're saying is this is actually very beneficial for your business, so do more of it and make sure you measure before you start and when you make improvements so you can prove the financial returns as well as the sustainability returns.
Når vi nu taler om økonomi og bæredygtighed, kan vi ikke komme udenom, at en af HPE's største fokusområder er salg af hardware. Som en førende teknologivirksomhed er det vigtigt at fortsætte med at innovere inden for hardware og sikre, at produkterne er både klimavenlige og innovative. Og hardware-innovation spiller en afgørende rolle i overgangen til en mere bæredygtig fremtid.
So more of our focus from an HPE perspective is on the product design, both in terms of how do you efficiently manufacture that product. So there is a design for manufacturability, but there's also design for the environment. And that program for us is 30 years old. It actually celebrated its 30th birthday last year, so now 31, I guess. And that really focuses on three things: is designing for energy efficiency, what we call material innovation, which is what are the materials you use in the product and how do you use less of them. And then number three, when we started the programs, we called it design for recyclability. So how do you design a product at the front end so that it's easier to be recycled at the tail end? We now call that design for circularity because, as we know with the circular economy, actually recycling isn't the answer. The answer is how do we reuse those materials or assets and keep them in play even longer than that. Ultimately recycle them when they can't be circular anymore. But so how do you design that in from the front end? And then we work with our contract manufacturers to make sure their manufacturing processes are as efficient as possible as well. As I say, in terms of the actual manufacturing, the logistical pipelines of getting those to customers as well. So we are really focused throughout that entire value chain. But to be clear, for many of our products, we are not the manufacturer. Those are contract manufacturers on our behalf.
En af HPE's store satsninger er HPE GreenLake. HPE GreenLake er mange ting, og det er blandt andet forbrugsorienteret IT, hvor man kører sin infrastruktur som en cloud, men i sit eget datacenter. Det betyder noget i forhold til, hvordan man planlægger sin infrastruktur, og at man for eksempel ikke overprovisionerer som en forsikring til at kunne skalere i fremtiden. Det betyder også, at man er mere tilbøjelig til at right-size sin infrastruktur.
What GreenLake does is figures out exactly what the level of equipment that they need is. Adds about a 10% buffer on top just in case, because workloads do move around a lot. And we only charge the customer for that 10% buffer for the periods when they actually use it. And it's in a low power mode if they're not using it. And then every month we meet with them and say, okay, you flexed into the buffer 3 times this month. Do we think we need to add a little to your capacity and give you a new buffer? Or do you think we're fine? Do you think workloads are going to go up? Or are they going to go down? And so it really lets the size of the technology infrastructure go up or go down in relation to the customer's workloads.
And it helps you like right size your infrastructure, right? So that's also a sustainable maybe solution from HP.
Absolutely. So almost any GreenLake solution has a sustainability benefit as well. For the customers that had workloads and lifted and shifted them, we've seen benefits. And again, identical workloads pre and post. We have a customer that did that with all of their IT operations, cut their power consumption by 65%, cut the number of racks they needed in their technology space by 48%. So for identical workloads. So it just shows you the efficiency benefit they had to moving under GreenLake. For customers, we did a study over 5 years of the customer buys it themselves for compute solutions. CapEx, the customer buys it themselves at the beginning of 5 years and runs it versus doing it under GreenLake. That showed a over-provisioning reduction of 30% and a power consumption savings of 33%. So a variety of indicators that all demonstrate that operating under GreenLake is generally a sustainable IT efficiency improvement as well. And I say generally because, again, there could be some niche workload that perhaps the power consumption is the same pre and post or something. But generally speaking, we find that there's always a benefit in moving to GreenLake.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
And thank you for taking your time here. And I wish you a great journey in Denmark and the Nordics.
Well, thank you. No, I'm excited. I've never been to Denmark before, so I'm looking forward to seeing a little.
Vi har i dag fået et indblik i HPE's fokus på bæredygtighed, deres ansvar som producent og deres ambition om at skabe en mere bæredygtig fremtid. Det her er slutningen på interviewet med John Fry, men podcastserien stopper ikke her. Der er flere afsnit i den her serie på samme kanal, og dem kan du høre allerede nu. Og hvis du nu sidder og tænker, der mangler der en vigtig pointe, eller du har en rigtig god historie, eller du har et input, vi mangler, eller har kommentarer til den her podcast, så må du meget gerne kontakte mig eller Arrow. Mit navn er Liselotte Forsgaard, og jeg vil gerne sige dig et stort tak, fordi du har lyttet med.
Husk, du kan finde links og mere materiale i podcastens episodebeskrivelse. Tak fordi du lyttede med. Ha' en skøn dag.